Detective Santos opens the black notebook and her face drains of color. 7 names. 7 little girls, ages 9 to 13. Emma isn't his only victim. The trusted math tutor has been hiding a devastating pattern. Each child documented in chilling detail. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from. And don't forget to click subscribe. The Tuesday evening light filtered through the kitchen window as Sarah Mitchell wiped down the counter, glancing at the clock for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. 6:15. Her daughter Emma should have been home from tutoring 20 minutes ago. She dried her hands on the dish towel, trying to ignore the familiar knot of anxiety that had taken up permanent residence in her stomach over the past 3 weeks. Ever since Emma started these after-school math sessions with Mr. Reynolds, something had shifted. Sarah couldn't quite name it, couldn't point to any single thing that was definitively wrong. But a mother knows. A mother always knows when something about her child has changed. The sound of the front door opening pulled Sarah from her thoughts. She turned to see Emma shuffling into the kitchen, her backpack hanging loosely from one shoulder, her eyes fixed on the floor. The 11-year-old's brown hair fell across her face like a curtain, and she made no move to push it back. "Hey, sweetie," Sarah said, forcing brightness into her voice. "How was tutoring?" Emma shrugged, dropping her backpack by the door with a thud that seemed heavier than usual. "Fine," she mumbled, already moving toward the stairs. "Homework?" Sarah asked. "Did it at tutoring?" The words came out flat, mechanical. "Emma, wait." Sarah took a step toward her daughter. "Can you look at me for a second?" For a moment, Emma stood frozen on the bottom step, her hand gripping the banister. Then slowly, reluctantly, she turned her head. When their eyes finally met, Sarah felt her breath catch. There was something there. Something haunted in her daughter's usually bright hazel eyes. Dark circles shadowed the delicate skin beneath them, and there was a quality to her gaze that Sarah had never seen before. A wariness that didn't belong in the eyes of a child. "Are you feeling okay?" Sarah asked, moving closer. "You look tired." Emma's hand tightened on the banister. "I'm fine. Just want to rest." Before Sarah could say anything more, Emma was gone, her footsteps quick on the stairs, followed by the decisive click of her bedroom door closing. Sarah stood alone in the kitchen, the silence pressing against her ears. She walked to Emma's backpack, unzipping it slowly. Inside, the math workbook sat on top. Sarah flipped it open, scanning the pages. The problems were completed, but the handwriting wasn't Emma's. The numbers were formed differently, with a slant and pressure that looked adult, masculine. Sarah's hands began to tremble as she set the book down. 3 weeks ago, Emma had been struggling with pre-algebra. Her teacher, Mrs. Peterson, had recommended additional help, and several parents at the school had raved about Thomas Reynolds, a retired math teacher who tutored students from his home office. He had impeccable references, a gentle manner, and a way of making complex concepts simple. Sarah had met him twice, once when she dropped Emma off, and once when she picked her up. He was in his early 50s, soft-spoken, with wire-rimmed glasses and a cardigan that made him look like someone's kindly grandfather. Nothing about him had raised any red flags. Nothing external, anyway. But over the past 3 weeks, Emma had transformed. The chatty, energetic girl who used to bounce into the house talking about her day had become quiet and withdrawn. She'd stopped eating much at dinner, pushing food around her plate with mechanical precision. Her sleep had become erratic. Sarah would wake at 2 in the morning to hear her daughter crying softly through the bedroom wall. When Sarah tried to talk to Emma about it, her daughter insisted everything was fine. Just stressed about school. Just tired. Just not hungry. Always just something ordinary. Something that could be explained away. But the explanations never quite fit the reality of what Sarah was witnessing. She thought about her conversation with her best friend Rachel 2 days ago. They'd been having coffee while Rachel's son played in the backyard with Emma, or at least, he tried to. Emma had sat alone on the porch steps, arms wrapped around her knees, staring at nothing. "Is Emma okay?" Rachel had asked quietly. "She seems different lately." Sarah had wanted to confide her fears, but what could she say? "My daughter is sad and withdrawn." Kids went through phases. Moods changed. Middle school was hard. Every parenting book said this was normal. But Rachel, who had 3 teenagers of her own, had looked at Sarah with concern deepening in her eyes. "Sarah, I'm going to say something, and I don't want you to think I'm overreacting." She'd leaned forward, her voice dropping. "But I raised 2 daughters through their pre-teen years, and what I'm seeing in Emma, it reminds me of something. Has anything changed recently? New people in her life? New situations?" Sarah had told her about the tutoring, about Mr. Reynolds. Rachel had nodded slowly. "How does Emma act when you mention him?" "When it's time to go to tutoring." Sarah had thought about it. Emma never wanted to go. Every Tuesday and Thursday there was a struggle. Emma would say she didn't need tutoring anymore, that she understood the math now, that she could figure it out on her own. But her grades, which had initially improved, were sliding again. Mrs. Peterson had mentioned that Emma seemed distracted in class, staring out the window instead of participating. "Trust your instincts," Rachel had said, squeezing Sarah's hand. "Always trust your instincts when it comes to your kids." Now, standing in her kitchen with Emma's backpack at her feet, and that math book with its adult handwriting, Sarah's instincts were screaming. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. Outside Emma's door she paused, pressing her ear to the wood. She could hear nothing, not even movement. She knocked softly. "Emma, can I come in?" Silence. Then, "I guess." Sarah pushed open the door. Emma was lying on her bed, facing the wall, still in her school clothes and jacket. The overhead light was off, just the fading evening light coming through the window. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, placing a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. The girl flinched, pulling away slightly. The reaction sent ice through Sarah's veins. "Sweetheart, I need you to talk to me." Sarah kept her voice steady, calm. "Something's wrong, and I need to know what it is so I can help you." "Nothing's wrong." Emma's voice was muffled against the pillow. "Mom, just leave me alone, please. I can't do that." Sarah moved her hand to stroke Emma's hair, and this time her daughter didn't pull away. "You're my baby, and you're hurting. I can see it. Whatever it is, whatever's going on, you can tell me. I promise I won't be mad." Emma's shoulders began to shake. Sarah realized she was crying, silent sobs that made her small frame tremble. "Oh, honey." Sarah wanted to pull her into her arms, but something held her back. Some instinct that said to go slowly, to be gentle. "Is it something at school? Is someone bullying you?" Emma shook her head against the pillow. "Is it the tutoring? Is it too hard? Too much pressure?" Another head shake, but this one was less certain. "Is it Mr. Reynolds?" Sarah asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Emma went completely still, even her breathing seeming to stop. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. "Emma?" Sarah prompted gently. "Baby, you can tell me anything. Anything at all." "I can't," Emma whispered finally. Her voice so small Sarah had to lean in to hear it. "I can't tell you." "Why not?" "Because," Emma's voice broke, "because you'll hate me. Because it's my fault. Because I let it happen and I didn't stop it and now it's too late." The words came out in a rush, tangled with sobs. Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her. Her heart began to pound so hard she could hear it in her ears. She thought of every news story she'd ever pushed away, every horror she'd told herself could never happen to her family. "Listen to me," Sarah said, her voice shaking despite her efforts to control it. "Nothing is your fault. Do you hear me? Nothing. No matter what happened, it is not your fault." Emma turned over finally, her face wet with tears, her eyes red and swollen. She looked at her mother with such pain, such confusion, that Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. "He said I was special," Emma said, the words tumbling out now. "He said I was smart and pretty, and that I was his favorite student. He said we had a special connection, and that's why he wanted to help me so much." Sarah's hands clenched into fists in her lap. She fought to keep her face calm, to not let the rage and fear show. Emma needed her to be steady right now. "What else did he say?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said that learning could be fun, that we could play games while we studied. At first it was just math games and they were fun, but then the games changed." Emma's voice dropped even lower. "He said we could play a special game that only smart girls could play. He said it was our secret, and that if I told anyone, no one would believe me because I was just a kid and he was a trusted teacher." Sarah felt bile rising in her throat. Her whole body had gone cold. What kind of game, Emma? But even as she asked, she knew. Deep in her soul, she knew. And the knowledge was unbearable. Emma couldn't look at her anymore. She turned her face back to the pillow, her words muffled but clear enough. "He made me touch him. And he touched me. He said it was okay because it was just teaching, just showing me about biology and growing up. He said all girls learn this way, but that most parents don't want their daughters to know, because they want to keep them babies forever." Sarah's vision blurred with tears, but she blinked them back furiously. She needed to see, needed to be present, needed to be strong. "Did he hurt you?" she asked. "Did he touch you under your clothes?" Emma nodded against the pillow. "How many times?" "Every session." Emma's voice was flat now, disconnected. "He would do the math with me first, like normal, but then at the end, he'd say it was time for the special lesson. The door would lock and the curtains were always closed and he'd turn on music so no one could hear and then—" She stopped, her whole body shaking. Sarah pulled Emma into her arms then, holding her daughter against her chest as sobs racked them both. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered into Emma's hair. "I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. I'm so sorry I let this happen." "I wanted to tell you," Emma cried. "But he said if I told you'd be disappointed in me. He said you'd sent me there to learn and I was failing you by not being a good student. He said the special lessons were the only reason my grades got better, and if I stopped, I'd fail and disappoint everyone." "Listen to me." Sarah pulled back, holding Emma's face in her hands, forcing her daughter to look at her. "You did nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing. This man is evil. What he did is against the law. It's not teaching. It's not normal. It's not okay. And you are not at fault. Not even a little bit." "Really?" Emma's voice was so small, so young. "Really?" Sarah said firmly. "And we're going to make sure he never does this to anyone ever again." Emma's eyes widened with fear. "You're going to tell?" "Yes," Sarah said. "We have to. But first, I need to take you to see a doctor. I need to make sure you're okay, that he didn't hurt you in ways we need to treat." "No," Emma pulled back. "Mom, no. I don't want anyone else to know. I don't want anyone to look at me or touch me or ask me questions." "I know you're scared," Sarah said, "but Dr. Patterson has known you since you were born. She cares about you. She'll be gentle and she'll help us. And we need to document what happened so that Mr. Reynolds goes to jail and can't hurt any other little girls." Emma was shaking her head, but Sarah could see the fight draining out of her. The secret had been too heavy for too long. Now that it was out, Emma looked exhausted, wrung out, but also somehow lighter. "Oh, can you stay with me?" Emma asked. "Every second," Sarah promised. "I will not leave your side." Not for a moment. She pulled out her phone, her hands shaking so badly she could barely dial. Dr. Patterson's emergency line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Dr. Patterson's service. This is Sarah Mitchell. I need to speak to Dr. Patterson immediately. It's about my daughter Emma. It's an emergency." "What's the nature of the emergency?" "I believe she's been sexually assaulted. By her tutor. She's been having sessions with him for 3 weeks and she just disclosed to me that he's been touching her inappropriately." The words felt like broken glass in her mouth. "I'll get Dr. Patterson on the line right away. Please hold." The hold music was obscene in its cheerfulness. Sarah sat on Emma's bed, her free arm wrapped around her daughter, waiting in a hell of suspended time. "Sarah." Dr. Patterson's voice came through, professional but warm. "Tell me what's happened." Sarah explained everything as Emma sat beside her, silent and small. Dr. Patterson listened without interrupting. "Bring her to my office," she said when Sarah finished. "I'm going to call in right now. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. Don't let Emma bathe or change clothes. I know that will be uncomfortable, but we need to preserve any evidence." "Okay," Sarah said, her throat tight. "Dr. Patterson, is she going to be okay?" There was a pause. "She's going to need help, Sarah. Therapy, support, time. But yes, with the right care, she can heal from this. Kids are resilient, and she has you, which means she has someone who believes her and is protecting her. That's the most important thing." "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "I'll see you soon. Drive safely." Sarah ended the call and looked at Emma. "We need to go now, sweetheart." "Can you do that?" Emma nodded. Together they walked down the stairs, Sarah's arm around her daughter's shoulders. Emma moved like someone much older, like someone carrying weight that aged them beyond their years. In the car, Sarah called 911. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost couldn't hold the phone. "911, what's your emergency?" "My daughter has been sexually assaulted by her tutor." Saying it out loud to a stranger made it more real somehow. "She just disclosed it to me. We're on our way to her pediatrician now to have her examined." "How old is your daughter?" 11. "She's 11 years old, and this man, this trusted teacher, he—" Sarah's voice broke. She pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting for control. "Ma'am, I need you to stay calm so I can help you," the dispatcher said gently. "What's your name?" "Sarah Mitchell." "Okay, Sarah. And what's your daughter's name?" "Emma." "Is Emma in immediate danger right now?" "No, she's with me. We're going to the doctor." "That's good. That's exactly what you should do. Can you tell me the name of the person who assaulted Emma?" "Thomas Reynolds. He's a tutor. He works out of his home." Sarah gave the address, her voice mechanical. "Does he have other students?" "Yes." "Oh God, yes. He probably has 6 or 7 regular students. There might be other kids. There might be other girls." The thought hit her like a physical blow. How many other mothers were sitting with their daughters right now, not knowing? How many other little girls were carrying this secret, thinking they were alone? "We're going to send officers to his address right now," the dispatcher said. "And I'm going to have a detective call you. Her name is Detective Maria Santos. She specializes in crimes against children. She'll meet you at the doctor's office." "Okay," Sarah said. "Okay, thank you." She ended the call and glanced at Emma, who was staring out the window at the passing streetlights. "You did the right thing telling me," Sarah said. "I know it was scary, but you did the right thing." "Is he going to get in trouble?" Emma asked. "Yes," Sarah said firmly. "A lot of trouble. What he did is called sexual abuse, and it's a crime. He's going to be arrested." "Good," Emma said, and for the first time in weeks, there was something like fire in her voice. "Good. I hope he never gets out." Dr. Patterson's office was in a small medical building on the edge of town. The parking lot was empty except for 2 cars. Sarah recognized Dr. Patterson's silver sedan. The other was an unmarked police car. Sarah's stomach churned. Dr. Patterson met them at the door, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, her face lined with concern. "Emma, sweetheart," she said, kneeling down to eye level. "I'm so glad you're here. You're very brave." Emma didn't respond, just pressed closer to her mother. "This is Detective Santos," Dr. Patterson said, gesturing to a woman in her 40s with kind brown eyes and a gentle smile. "She's here to help us make sure everything is documented properly." "Hi, Emma," Detective Santos said. "I know this is really hard and really scary, but I promise we're going to do everything we can to help you and to make sure the person who hurt you faces consequences." Emma nodded slightly. They moved into the examination room together. It was the same room where Emma had gotten her vaccinations, where Dr. Patterson had treated her ear infections and strep throat. But now it felt different, clinical and cold. "Emma," Dr. Patterson said gently, "I'm going to need to do an examination. I need to check and make sure you're not hurt, and to document what happened. Your mom is going to stay right here with you the whole time. So is Detective Santos. She's going to take pictures, but only of any injuries or marks we find. Is that okay? Emma's eyes darted to Sarah, who squeezed her hand. I know it's scary, Sarah said, but Dr. Patterson has to do this. It's going to help catch Mr. Reynolds and make sure he can't hurt anyone else. Okay, Emma whispered. I'll be as gentle and quick as I can, Dr. Patterson promised. The examination took 30 minutes. Sarah stood at Emma's head holding her hand, whispering words of encouragement and love. Dr. Patterson worked with clinical efficiency but infinite gentleness, narrating each step before she did it, asking permission, moving slowly. When she examined Emma's private areas, Sarah saw her face change. The professional mask slipped for just a moment, and Sarah saw anger flash across the doctor's features before she controlled it. Emma, you're doing great, Dr. Patterson said. Just a little bit more. Detective Santos took photographs with a medical camera, documenting everything Dr. Patterson pointed out. When it was finally over, Dr. Patterson helped Emma dress and then turned to Sarah. I need to speak with you privately for a moment, she said quietly. Sarah looked at Emma. Sweetie, can Detective Santos stay with you while I talk to Dr. Patterson? Emma nodded, exhausted. In the hallway, Dr. Patterson's professional demeanor crumbled slightly. She took off her glasses and pinched the bridge of her nose. Sarah, what I found is consistent with Emma's account. There's evidence of repeated sexual contact, bruising in areas that wouldn't occur naturally, physical signs of trauma. Sarah felt the hallway tilt. She reached out to steady herself against the wall. Is she okay? I mean, will she be okay physically? She'll heal, Dr. Patterson said. But Sarah, I'm required by law to report this immediately to Child Protective Services and to the police. Detective Santos is already here, which is good. But CPS will likely want to do their own interview with Emma. How much more does she have to go through? Sarah's voice broke. How many times does she have to tell this story? I know it seems cruel, Dr. Patterson said, but each person has a role in protecting Emma and building a case against this man. The good news is that Detective Santos is one of the best. She's trained in interviewing child victims. She'll be gentle. They returned to the examination room. Detective Santos was showing Emma pictures of her own daughter on her phone, trying to distract her. Emma, Detective Santos said, setting down her phone. I need to ask you some questions about what happened with Mr. Reynolds. I know you already told your mom, but I need to hear it from you so I can write a report. Is that okay? Emma looked at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. You can do this, baby. Just tell the truth. For the next hour, Detective Santos asked questions with infinite patience. She never pushed, never rushed. She let Emma tell the story in her own words, at her own pace. She used anatomically correct dolls to help Emma show what had happened when words failed her. Sarah sat beside her daughter, tears streaming down her face, listening to details she hadn't heard before. How Mr. Reynolds had started with compliments, then casual touches on her shoulder, her hand. How he'd gradually increased the contact over weeks, always explaining it away as normal, as educational, as special. How he'd told her that if she pulled away or said no, it meant she didn't trust him. And how could he teach someone who didn't trust their teacher? How he'd shown her videos on his computer of educational content that was actually pornography, telling her this was what growing up meant. How he'd taken photographs of her, though Emma didn't know what he did with them. Did he ever penetrate you? Detective Santos asked gently. Do you understand what that means? Emma nodded. He touched me inside, with his fingers. It hurt, but he said it wouldn't hurt once I got used to it, that my body needed to learn. Sarah made a sound, a wounded animal noise she couldn't suppress. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back the sobs. Detective Santos reached over and squeezed her shoulder briefly, before returning her attention to Emma. You're doing so well, Emma. Just a few more questions. Did this happen at every tutoring session? Almost all of them. Sometimes he said I'd earned a break because I'd been such a good student. But then the next time it would be worse. Like he was making up for the missed time. Did anyone else ever come into the room while this was happening? No. He always locked the door and checked the windows. He said it was so we wouldn't be disturbed while we were studying. Did he ever give you anything? Gifts? Candy? Money? He gave me a phone. Emma's eyes widened as she remembered. He said it was so we could text about homework. But he made me hide it from my mom. He said you wouldn't understand, that you'd take it away because you didn't want me growing up. Where's the phone now? Detective Santos asked, leaning forward. In my backpack. Hidden in the zippered pocket. Detective Santos looked at Sarah, who immediately stood. I'll get it. Sarah ran to the car, grabbed Emma's backpack, and brought it inside. She found the phone exactly where Emma said it would be, a cheap prepaid smartphone. Detective Santos pulled out an evidence bag and carefully placed the phone inside. This is going to be very helpful, she said. I'll get our tech team to go through it. Text messages, photos, everything on here could be evidence. She sealed the bag and labeled it. Emma, is there anything else you can think of that might help us? Anything Mr. Reynolds said or did that seemed important? Emma thought for a long moment. He has a notebook, she said finally. A black notebook that he keeps in his desk drawer. He writes in it sometimes after our sessions. I saw it once when he opened the drawer to get more pencils. There were other names in it. Girls' names. Detective Santos and Dr. Patterson exchanged a glance. Do you remember any of the names? I saw Sophia and Mia. I don't know their last names. Detective Santos wrote quickly in her own notebook. Thank you, Emma. That's really important information. There was a knock on the examination room door. A woman in business casual attire entered, introducing herself as Margaret Chen from Child Protective Services. She had kind eyes, but a weary expression that spoke of too many cases, too many broken children. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but I need to conduct my own interview with Emma as part of our investigation. How much more does she have to do tonight? Sarah asked, hearing the edge of desperation in her own voice. Ms. Chen, Emma has already been examined and interviewed. She's exhausted. I understand, Margaret said gently, and I'll be as brief as possible. But we have protocols we must follow to ensure Emma's safety and to build a strong case. Another hour passed. More questions, more painful retelling. By the end, Emma was practically falling asleep in her chair, her face pale and drawn. Finally, mercifully, it was over. We have enough for tonight, Detective Santos said. Emma, you can go home now. You can go. But I'm going to need you to come to the station in the next few days to record a formal video statement. Can you do that? Emma nodded mutely. What happens now? Sarah asked as she helped Emma put on her jacket. Right now we have officers at Mr. Reynolds' residence, Detective Santos said. He's being arrested as we speak. We'll execute a search warrant, seize his computers, his phones, that notebook Emma mentioned, anything that might contain evidence. We'll reach out to his other students' families. This is just the beginning of a longer process, but Emma was incredibly brave tonight. What she told us gives us everything we need to move forward. Will he get bail? Sarah asked, fear tightening her chest. We'll argue for high bail or remand given the nature of the charges, Detective Santos said. I can't promise you he won't make bail, but we'll do everything we can to keep him locked up pending trial. They walked out into the cool night air. It was nearly 10 o'clock. Sarah realized with shock that they'd been there for over 3 hours. The drive home was silent. Emma fell asleep almost immediately, her head resting against the window. Sarah's mind raced with everything she needed to do. She needed to call Emma's school and arrange for counseling. She needed to find a therapist who specialized in childhood trauma. She needed to figure out how to help her daughter heal from this. When they got home, Sarah carried Emma inside. Her daughter had always been small for her age, but now she felt impossibly light, impossibly fragile. Sarah tucked her into bed, pulling the covers up around her chin. She sat on the edge of the bed, watching Emma sleep, tears running down her face. How had she missed it? What signs had she ignored? What could she have done differently? Her phone buzzed with a text from Detective Santos. Officers are at Reynolds' home. He's in custody. Found the notebook. 7 other victims identified so far, ages 9 to 13. Thank you for acting quickly. You may have saved other children from this monster. 7 other girls. 7 other families about to go through this nightmare. Sarah felt sick. She typed back a response with shaking fingers. Thank you for everything you did tonight. Please keep me updated. She went downstairs and sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The house was silent except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. Each second seemed impossibly long. In the span of a few hours, their entire world had shattered. Her phone rang, startling her. Rachel's name appeared on the screen. Sarah answered. I had the strangest feeling I needed to call you, Rachel said. Is everything okay? And suddenly, Sarah couldn't hold it in anymore. She told Rachel everything, the words pouring out in a torrent of pain and rage and guilt. Rachel listened, offering no platitudes, no empty reassurances. I'm coming over, Rachel said when Sarah finally fell silent. You shouldn't be alone right now. I'm not alone. Emma's here. Sarah, you need support too. You're in shock. I'm coming over and I'm staying the night. I'll sleep on your couch. You're not going through this by yourself. 20 minutes later, Rachel arrived with a bag of clothes and a box of tissues. She made tea that neither of them drank and sat with Sarah in the dark kitchen while Sarah cried. I should have known, Sarah kept saying. I should have seen it. You did see it, Rachel said firmly. You saw that something was wrong and you got Emma to tell you. That's what matters. You believed her immediately. You took action. You did everything right. But for 3 weeks, while I was suspicious but doing nothing, he was hurting her. You can't think like that, Rachel said. You can't torture yourself with what-ifs. Emma is safe now. He's in custody. You did what you were supposed to do. But Sarah couldn't shake the guilt. It settled into her bones, heavy and permanent. Around 2 a.m, there was a soft sound on the stairs. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes wide and frightened. I had a nightmare, she whispered. Sarah was on her feet immediately, pulling Emma into her arms. Come on, baby. Let's get you back to bed. Can I sleep with you tonight? Emma asked. I don't want to be alone. Of course, Sarah said. Of course you can. They climbed into Sarah's bed together, Emma curling up small against her mother's side. Sarah wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her close, feeling the rapid flutter of Emma's heartbeat against her ribs. Mom? Emma's voice was small in the darkness. Yeah, baby. Thank you for believing me. The words broke Sarah's heart. Oh, sweetheart. I will always believe you. Always. No matter what. I love you, Emma whispered. I love you too. So much. More than anything in the world. Eventually, Emma's breathing evened out into sleep. Sarah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her daughter safe in her arms. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be more interviews, more questions. There would be a trial eventually, where Emma would have to face her abuser again. There would be therapy and healing, and learning to trust again. But tonight, in this moment, Emma was safe. She was home. She was believed. And Thomas Reynolds was in jail, where he belonged. Sarah's phone lit up with another text. This one from Detective Santos. Search of Reynolds' home yielded multiple computers, cameras, and extensive evidence. Found videos and photos of 7 victims, including Emma. Also found evidence he was planning to expand his operation. Your daughter's disclosure may have prevented this from happening to many more children. She's a hero. Sarah looked down at Emma's sleeping face, so young, so innocent despite everything she'd been through. You're a hero, baby girl, Sarah whispered. My brave, brave girl. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. A new day was beginning. Nothing would ever be quite the same again. But they would get through it together, one day at a time, one moment at a time. The morning light streaming through Sarah's bedroom window felt different somehow. Harsher, and more revealing. Emma woke first, stirring in Sarah's arms. For a moment she looked peaceful, almost like her old self. Then Sarah saw the moment reality crashed back into her daughter's consciousness. Emma's body went rigid, her eyes widening. "It's okay," Sarah whispered immediately. "You're safe. You're home. He's in jail." Emma nodded slowly, but Sarah could see the fear still lingering in her eyes. They went downstairs together to find Rachel had already made breakfast. Pancakes shaped like hearts, Emma's favorite. But Emma barely touched hers, pushing the food around her plate with her fork. "Not hungry, sweetie?" Rachel asked gently. Emma shook her head. Sarah's phone rang. Detective Santos. She stepped into the hallway to answer. "Sarah, I wanted to update you on last night's developments," the detective said. "Thomas Reynolds has been charged with 7 counts of aggravated sexual assault of a minor, 7 counts of possession of child pornography, and multiple related charges. He's being held without bail due to flight risk and danger to the community." "That's good," Sarah said, feeling a small measure of relief. "There's more," Detective Santos continued. "We executed search warrants on his computer and found extensive evidence. Videos, photographs, detailed notes documenting his abuse of all 7 girls. The notebook Emma mentioned contained dates, times, and descriptions of what he did to each child. He was meticulous in his record-keeping." Sarah felt nauseous. Why would he keep records? Sexual predators often document their crimes. It's part of their pathology. In this case, it's actually helpful for our prosecution. He essentially created a confession. The district attorney is confident we have a strong case. "What about the other families?" "The other girls. We contacted all of them last night. 5 families have already come forward with statements from their daughters confirming abuse. The remaining 2 families are in shock but cooperating. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to speak with some of the other mothers. They're struggling with the same guilt and confusion you're feeling. Sometimes it helps to talk to someone who understands." Sarah thought about it. Yes, I'll talk to them if it helps." "Thank you. I'll have them reach out to you. Also, we're recommending all the victims receive counseling through the county's Victim Services Program. They have therapists who specialize in childhood sexual trauma. Someone will be calling you today to set up an appointment for Emma." After the call ended, Sarah returned to the kitchen. Emma was still at the table, staring at her uneaten pancakes. Rachel caught Sarah's eye and tilted her head toward the living room, a silent question. Sarah nodded. "Emma, can you come sit with me on the couch?" Sarah asked. Emma followed wordlessly. They sat together, Emma curling into Sarah's side like she used to do when she was much younger. "Detective Santos called," Sarah began carefully. "They found evidence on Mr. Reynolds' computer. Videos and pictures and a notebook where he wrote about what he did. Not just to you, but to 7 other girls." Emma's breath hitched. 7. 7, Sarah confirmed. "You telling me what happened, that helped the police find all of them. You helped save other girls from him, Em. Do you understand that?" "But I didn't save them," Emma said, her voice thick with tears. "It already happened to them. Just like it happened to me." "I know, baby. But now it stops. He can't hurt anyone else ever again. And all 7 families know the truth now. All 7 girls can start to heal, just like you will." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "Are the other girls older than me?" "Some are older, some are younger. The youngest is 9. Sarah felt Emma tremble. 9 years old. Just a baby. "I want to meet them," Emma said suddenly. "I want to talk to them." Sarah hadn't expected that. "Why, sweetheart?" "Because they probably feel like I feel. Alone and scared and dirty. And maybe if we talk to each other, we won't feel so alone." Sarah's heart broke and swelled with pride simultaneously. Even in the midst of her own pain, Emma was thinking of others. "That's very brave of you," Sarah said. "I'll talk to Detective Santos about it. But first, you need to meet with a therapist. Someone who can help you process what happened and start to heal." "Will you come with me?" Emma asked. "Every single appointment," Sarah promised. The call from Victim Services came that afternoon. A woman named Dr. Lisa Hernandez, a psychologist specializing in childhood trauma, had an opening the next day. Sarah took it immediately. That evening, Sarah's phone rang again. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. Mrs. Mitchell? This is Amanda Torres. Detective Santos gave me your number. My daughter Sophia is one of Mr. Reynolds' victims. Sarah gripped the phone tighter. I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry your family is going through this too. Detective Santos said your daughter was the one who disclosed first, that her statement led to the arrest. Amanda's voice was raw with emotion. I wanted to thank you. If Emma hadn't been brave enough to tell you, my Sophia might still be suffering in silence. How is Sophia? Sarah asked. Destroyed, Amanda said bluntly. She blamed herself. She thought she was the only one. Learning there were others, that actually helped somehow. She felt less alone. Less like it was something she did to cause it. They talked for over an hour. Amanda's story was heartbreakingly similar to Sarah's. The tutoring sessions that started innocently, the gradual change in Sophia's behavior, the signs Amanda had noticed but explained away, the guilt that now consumed her. We can't change what happened, Sarah said finally. All we can do is help them heal and make sure that monster pays for what he did. Yes, Amanda agreed. Yes, that's what we do now. Over the next few days, Sarah spoke with 3 more mothers. Each conversation was painful, each story a variation on the same nightmare. But something unexpected emerged from these connections. A support network, a group of mothers bound together by shared trauma, determined to help their daughters heal. On Tuesday, Sarah took Emma to her first therapy appointment. Dr. Hernandez's office was designed to put children at ease. Soft lighting, comfortable furniture, shelves filled with toys and art supplies. Dr. Hernandez herself was in her late 30s, with warm eyes and a gentle manner. Hi, Emma, she said. I'm Dr. Lisa. I'm really glad you're here. Emma looked at Sarah, who squeezed her hand. Do you want me to stay? Dr. Hernandez asked Sarah. Or would you prefer to speak with Emma alone? I want my mom, Emma said immediately. Then she stays, Dr. Hernandez said simply. For the first session, they mostly just talked. Dr. Hernandez asked Emma about her interests, her friends, her favorite subjects in school. She asked about Mr. Reynolds too, but gently, letting Emma share at her own pace. You know what happened to you wasn't your fault, right? Dr. Hernandez said at one point. Everyone keeps saying that, Emma replied. But I don't know if I believe it. Why not? Because I didn't fight. I didn't scream. I didn't tell anyone for so long. If I'd just been stronger, or braver, or smarter, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Dr. Hernandez leaned forward. Emma, Mr. Reynolds is an adult. You're a child. He was in a position of authority and trust. He manipulated you. He groomed you. That means he spent time making you trust him, making you think what was happening was okay, or your fault. That's what predators do. They're very good at it. Nothing you did or didn't do caused this. Nothing you could have done would have stopped him. The only person responsible for what happened is Mr. Reynolds. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I feel so dirty, like I can never be clean again. That's a very common feeling for survivors of sexual abuse, Dr. Hernandez said. But I want you to know that feeling will change. With time and work, you'll understand that the dirt, the wrongness, that all belongs to him, not to you. You're not dirty. You're hurt. But you're not damaged beyond repair. You can heal from this. They scheduled twice-weekly sessions. Over the following weeks, Emma began to slowly open up more. She drew pictures of her feelings. She role-played difficult conversations. She learned coping strategies for when the memories became overwhelming. Meanwhile, the legal case against Thomas Reynolds moved forward. The district attorney, a stern woman named Patricia Valdez, met with all the families. We have an exceptionally strong case, she told them in a group meeting at the courthouse. Multiple victims with consistent stories, physical evidence, documented evidence from his own records and his digital footprint. He's already been offered a plea deal. What kind of plea deal? Sarah asked, her voice sharp. 25 years without possibility of parole, in exchange for pleading guilty and sparing the girls from having to testify at trial. Murmurs ran through the room. I don't want to testify, one of the younger girls said, pressing against her mother. Several other children nodded in agreement. You don't have to decide right now, Patricia said. Mr. Reynolds has 2 weeks to accept or reject the plea offer. If he rejects it, we go to trial. If he accepts it, he goes directly to prison. Will we have a chance to speak at sentencing? Amanda Torres asked. Yes. Victim impact statements are allowed and encouraged. Each child and family can tell the court how his actions affected them. That night, Sarah talked to Emma about it. How do you feel about the plea deal? She asked. I don't want to see him again, Emma admitted. The thought of being in the same room with him makes me feel sick. Then we hope he takes the deal, Sarah said. And if he doesn't, we'll figure it out together. You're stronger than you know, Em. But Mr. Reynolds rejected the plea deal. His lawyer claimed he intended to fight the charges, to assert his innocence. The news hit all 7 families hard. How can he claim innocence? Amanda Torres raged over the phone to Sarah. They have videos. They have pictures. They have his own notebook describing in detail what he did. His lawyer is probably just trying to pressure them into a better deal, Sarah said, though her own hands were shaking. Patricia says this happens sometimes. He might change his mind before trial. But Reynolds didn't change his mind. As the trial date approached, Dr. Hernandez worked with Emma on preparation. They practiced what testifying might be like. They discussed coping strategies for seeing Reynolds again. They worked on grounding techniques for managing anxiety. The other families were doing the same with their daughters. The mothers had formed a support group, meeting weekly at Amanda's house. They shared resources, cried together, helped each other navigate the complex trauma their families were experiencing. Three months after Emma's initial disclosure, the trial began. The courthouse was the imposing building of gray stone and high windows. Sarah held Emma's hand tightly as they walked up the steps with Detective Santos. Remember, the detective said, you don't have to look at him when you testify. You can look at me or at your mom or at the prosecutor. You're in control. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than Sarah expected. Wooden benches, a judge's bench at the front, tables for the prosecution and defense. And there, at the defense table, sat Thomas Reynolds. He looked different than Sarah remembered. Smaller somehow. His cardigan was replaced by an orange jumpsuit. His kind, grandfatherly appearance was gone, revealing the predator underneath. Emma saw him and froze. Her breath came in short gasps. Sarah felt her daughter's hand start to shake in hers. Look at me, Sarah said, kneeling in front of Emma, blocking her view of Reynolds. Just look at me. You don't have to look at him. You're safe. He can't hurt you here. Emma nodded. But Sarah could see the fear in her eyes. Dr. Hernandez had warned this might happen. Seeing the abuser again often triggered powerful reactions in victims. The trial lasted 2 weeks. 7 girls testified, each telling their story with heartbreaking detail. Emma went third. Sarah sat in the front row where Emma could see her. Detective Santos sat beside her. When Emma took the stand, she looked so small in the witness chair. The prosecutor, Patricia Valdez, approached gently. Emma, can you tell us how you know Mr. Reynolds? Emma's voice was quiet but steady. He was my math tutor. And how long did you have tutoring sessions with him? 3 weeks. Twice a week for 3 weeks. Can you describe what happened during those sessions? And Emma did. She told it all. The initial normal tutoring, the gradual escalation, the inappropriate touching, the explicit abuse, the manipulation and lies he told her. She spoke clearly, occasionally pausing to wipe tears or take sips of water. Sarah gripped Detective Santos's hand, crying silently as she listened to her daughter's testimony. When it was the defense attorney's turn to question Emma, Sarah felt rage build in her chest. The lawyer, a man in his 50s with slicked back hair, approached with false gentleness. Emma, isn't it true that you were struggling in math class? Yes, Emma admitted. And isn't it true that after you started tutoring with Mr. Reynolds, your grades improved? At first, yes. So he was helping you? He was hurting me, Emma said, her voice stronger now. He did bad things to me and told me it was okay, but it wasn't okay. It was wrong. But you continued going to tutoring for 3 weeks. If he was hurting you, why didn't you tell your mother? Because he told me not to. He said no one would believe me. He said I would get in trouble. He said my mom would be disappointed in me. Emma's voice cracked. He made me think it was my fault. Objection. Patricia Valdez stood. Your Honor, the defense is badgering the witness and victim blaming a child. Sustained, the judge said firmly. Defense counsel, rephrase your questions or move on. The defense lawyer had no more questions. Emma stepped down from the witness stand, walking directly to Sarah, who wrapped her in her arms. They sat together through the rest of the trial. The prosecution presented the physical evidence, the videos and photographs found on Reynolds' computer, the detailed notebook with his handwritten accounts, expert testimony from Dr. Patterson about the medical findings, expert testimony from a forensic psychologist about grooming and manipulation tactics used by sexual predators. The defense tried to claim Reynolds was being framed, that the evidence was planted, that the girls had been coached by their mothers to lie. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours before returning with their verdict. Guilty on all counts. Sarah felt Emma sag against her in relief. Around the courtroom, other mothers were crying, holding their daughters. At sentencing 2 weeks later, all 7 families gave victim impact statements. Sarah spoke first, her voice shaking but determined. Thomas Reynolds didn't just hurt my daughter. He stole her childhood innocence. He made her afraid to trust adults. He taught her that people in authority positions might hurt her. She has nightmares. She has anxiety. She struggles with feelings of guilt and shame that she should never have to feel. My vibrant, happy little girl became withdrawn and scared. That's what Thomas Reynolds did. He's a predator who used his position as a trusted teacher to access and abuse vulnerable children. He deserves the maximum sentence possible, not just for what he did to Emma, but for what he did to 7 children and 7 families. Amanda Torres went next, then the other mothers. Some of the older girls chose to speak for themselves, including Emma. Emma approached the microphone, Sarah standing right behind her for support. Mr. Reynolds told me I was special, Emma said, her voice small but clear. He made me think what was happening was normal and okay. He made me think it was my fault. But now I know the truth. I wasn't special to him. I was just another victim. What happened wasn't normal or okay. It was abuse. And it wasn't my fault. It was his. He's the adult. He's the teacher. He knew what he was doing was wrong and he did it anyway. I hope he goes to prison for a very long time so he can never hurt another kid again. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair, looked at Reynolds with unconcealed disgust. Mr. Reynolds, you were in a position of profound trust. Parents entrusted their children to you, believing you would help them learn and grow. Instead, you systematically abused that trust to commit heinous crimes against 7 innocent children. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Your own records document your predatory behavior in disturbing detail. You showed no remorse, no accountability. You put these brave children through the trauma of a trial rather than accepting responsibility for your actions. This court sentences you to 25 years on each count, to be served consecutively. That's a total of 175 years in prison. You will die in prison, Mr. Reynolds, and that is exactly what you deserve. Reynolds showed no emotion as he was led away in handcuffs. Outside the courthouse, the families gathered on the steps. It's over, Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. It's really over. No, Dr. Hernandez said gently. She had attended the sentencing to support the girls. The legal case is over. But the healing journey continues. That's the real work ahead. She was right. In the months that followed, Emma continued therapy. Some weeks were better than others. Some days Emma seemed almost like her old self, laughing at jokes, playing with friends. Other days the trauma would surface unexpectedly. A man's cologne that smelled like Reynolds. A locked door. A particular type of music. Any of these could trigger flashbacks or panic attacks. But gradually, slowly, Emma began to heal. She learned to recognize when she was being triggered and use her coping strategies. She learned to talk about what happened without feeling overwhelmed by shame. She learned that healing wasn't linear, that there would be setbacks, and that was okay. The 7 families stayed connected. They called themselves the Survivor Circle, though the adults joked it was really the mothers who refused to let predators win club. They celebrated holidays together, the children forming friendships forged in shared experience. 6 months after the trial, Emma came home from school with surprising news. "We're doing a project in social studies about people who make a difference in their communities," she said. "I want to do mine on awareness about child sexual abuse, about how to recognize the signs and what to do if an adult makes you uncomfortable." Sarah was surprised. "Are you sure, Em? That's pretty personal." "That's why I want to do it," Emma said firmly. "If my teacher had known the signs, maybe she would have noticed something was wrong sooner. If I had known it was okay to tell an adult that another adult was making me uncomfortable, maybe I would have told you after the first weird tutoring session instead of the 6th one. Kids need to know this stuff." Emma's project became a presentation she gave not just to her class, but to the entire 5th grade. With Dr. Hernandez's help, she created an age-appropriate presentation about body autonomy, recognizing grooming behavior, and the importance of telling trusted adults when something feels wrong. "No one has the right to touch you in ways that make you uncomfortable," Emma told her classmates. "Not family members, not teachers, not coaches, not tutors. No one. And if someone does, or if someone tells you to keep secrets about touching, you need to tell another adult right away. Keep telling until someone believes you and helps you." The presentation was so well received that the school district asked if Emma would be willing to adapt it for other schools. Amanda Torres's daughter, Sophia, helped create a video version that could be shared with schools across the state. A year after Emma's disclosure, Sarah sat in Dr. Hernandez's office for a family therapy session. Emma was different now than she'd been a year ago. Still healing, still working through trauma, but stronger, more confident, more aware of her own resilience. "How are you feeling about everything that's happened?" Dr. Hernandez asked Emma. Emma thought about it carefully. "I'm not going to say I'm glad it happened because I'm not. What Mr. Reynolds did was horrible, and it hurt me a lot. But I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that when bad things happen, you don't have to just suffer alone. You can tell people and get help. I learned that sometimes the worst things can lead to good things too, like how all the families became friends, and how we're helping other kids learn to be safe." She paused. "I also learned that healing doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It means learning to live with it and not letting it control your whole life." Dr. Hernandez smiled. "That's a very mature understanding, Emma. Your mother must be very proud of you." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Every single day," she said, reaching over to squeeze Emma's hand. "Every single day I'm proud of you." That evening, Sarah and Emma made dinner together. Something they'd started doing as part of Emma's therapy. Establishing routines, creating positive experiences, building trust. "Mom," Emma said as she stirred the pasta sauce. "Yes, sweetheart? Do you still feel guilty? About not knowing sooner what Mr. Reynolds was doing?" Sarah turned to look at her daughter. "Sometimes," she admitted. "I try not to because Dr. Hernandez says it's not productive. But sometimes I still wonder what I could have done differently." "You believed me," Emma said simply. "The second I told you, you believed me. You didn't question it, or make me prove it, or tell me I was confused. You just believed me and helped me." Some of the other girls said their parents didn't believe them at first, or they tried to tell adults before their moms and those adults didn't take them seriously. But you believed me right away. That's what matters. Sarah pulled Emma into a hug. "Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me." "Thank you for being someone I could trust," Emma replied. Later that night, after Emma went to bed, Sarah sat on her back porch with a cup of tea looking up at the stars. Her phone buzzed with a text from Detective Santos. "Wanted to update you. Reynolds was attacked in prison today by other inmates who found out why he was there. He's in the hospital but expected to survive. Just thought you should know." Sarah stared at the message for a long moment, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. She wasn't sorry he'd been hurt, But she also didn't find satisfaction in it. She texted back, "Thanks for letting me know." Another text came through, this time from Amanda. "Support group meeting tomorrow at my place. Can you make it?" Sarah smiled. "I'll be there." These women, these families, they had become her community. United by tragedy but bound by determination. Determined to heal. Determined to protect their children. Determined to create something meaningful from the worst experience of their lives. Over the next year, the Survivors Circle expanded their efforts. They lobbied for stronger background checks for tutors and coaches. They created educational materials about recognizing grooming behavior. They testified at the state legislature in favor of mandatory reporting training for teachers. Emma continued to thrive. She joined the school drama club, finding joy in performance and storytelling. She made new friends who knew about her past, but didn't define her by it. She still had hard days, still had nightmares sometimes, still had triggers that could send her spiraling. But she also had tools to cope, a support system that surrounded her with love, and a growing understanding that what happened to her didn't have to define her entire life. On the 2-year anniversary of her disclosure, Emma asked if she could write a letter. Not to Reynolds, he didn't deserve her words, but to other survivors. Dr. Hernandez helped her craft it, and it was published on the Survivors Circle website they'd created. "Dear fellow survivors," it began. "If you're reading this, something bad probably happened to you. Maybe it's still happening. Maybe it happened a long time ago. Maybe you've told someone. Or maybe you're still keeping the secret because you're scared or ashamed, or you think no one will believe you. I want you to know something important. It's not your fault. I know everyone says that, and maybe you don't believe it yet. I didn't believe it for a long time. But it's true. Whatever an adult did to you, that was their choice, not yours. You didn't cause it. You didn't deserve it. And you're not alone." The letter continued, sharing Emma's story and her journey of healing. It talked about the importance of telling trusted adults, of getting help, of believing that things could get better. "Healing is hard," Emma wrote. "It's not fast, and it's not always a straight line. Some days you'll feel strong and brave. Other days you'll feel broken. Both are okay. What matters is that you keep going. You keep working at it. You let people help you. And you remember that what happened to you is part of your story, but it's not the whole story. You get to write the rest. Make it a good one." The letter ended with resources, hotline numbers, links to organizations that could help. It ended with hope. 3 years after the disclosure, Emma turned 14. She was in 9th grade now, thinking about high school activities and college plans. The trauma was still part of her, would always be part of her, but it no longer consumed her. She had learned to integrate it into her life story, without letting it become her entire identity. Sarah watched her daughter laugh with friends at her birthday party and marveled at Emma's resilience. Yes, there had been countless therapy sessions. Yes, there had been tears and setbacks and hard days. Yes, the healing journey would probably never be fully complete. But Emma was here. She was alive. She was thriving in her own way. That was what mattered. At the party, Amanda Torres pulled Sarah aside. "I've been thinking about something," Amanda said. "A bigger project. Something that could reach more people." "What kind of project?" Sarah asked. "A foundation. The Survivors Circle Foundation. We could raise money for therapy scholarships for abuse survivors whose families can't afford it. We could fund education programs in schools. We could provide legal support for families going through prosecutions. We could create a network of resources." Sarah felt excitement building. "That's ambitious." "We have 7 families already," Amanda pointed out. 7 girls who understand this issue intimately. 7 mothers who are willing to fight. And we've already been doing advocacy work. Why not formalize it? Make it bigger? "Let's do it," Sarah said. And they did. Over the next year, the Survivors Circle Foundation became a reality. They filed for nonprofit status. They organized fundraisers. They recruited volunteers, including therapists, lawyers, and educators who wanted to contribute to their mission. Emma and the other survivors became youth advisors, helping shape programs and materials to ensure they were truly helpful for young people. 4 years after the disclosure, Emma stood at a podium in the state capitol, testifying before a legislative committee considering new child protection laws. "My name is Emma Mitchell," she said, her voice strong and clear. "When I was 11 years old, I was sexually abused by my tutor. He was a trusted community member, a retired teacher, someone my mother had no reason to suspect. The abuse lasted for 3 weeks before I finally told my mom what was happening. During those 3 weeks, he also abused 6 other girls. If the adults in our lives had been better educated about the signs of abuse, someone might have noticed sooner. If I had known it was okay to tell an adult that another adult was making me uncomfortable, I might have spoken up after the first incident, instead of the 6th. The legislation you're considering today would mandate that all educators receive annual training on recognizing and reporting signs of child abuse. It would require that age-appropriate education about body safety and consent be integrated into school curricula starting in elementary school. It would establish stronger oversight and background check requirements for anyone working with children in educational settings. These measures won't prevent every case of abuse. Predators are skilled at hiding their true nature, but these measures will make it harder for them to operate undetected. They will empower children to recognize inappropriate behavior and speak up about it. They will equip adults to notice warning signs and intervene sooner. I'm asking you to support this legislation, not just for me and the other 6 girls who were victimized by my abuser, but for all the children who might be protected if we as a society take child safety more seriously." The committee room was silent when Emma finished. Several legislators wiped their eyes. 2 months later, the legislation passed unanimously and was signed into law. It was nicknamed Emma's Law, though Emma tried to insist it should be named for all 7 survivors. 5 years after the disclosure, Emma graduated from middle school and prepared to enter high school. At her graduation party, surrounded by family and friends, she reflected on how far she'd come. "You know what's weird?" she said to her mother as they stood together watching the sunset. "I can barely remember what life was like before it happened. Like, I know I was different, but that Emma feels like a different person." "Do you miss her?" Sarah asked. "The girl you were before?" Emma thought about it. "Sometimes. She was more innocent, more trusting. But I don't think I'd trade who I am now, even knowing what I had to go through to become this person." "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Sarah said. "Trauma changes us. We can't go back to who we were before, but we can choose who we become after." "I like who I'm becoming," Emma said. "Someone who helps people. Someone who's strong. Someone who doesn't let bad things that happen to her stop her from doing good things." Sarah pulled her daughter close. "I like who you're becoming too. I love who you are right now, and I can't wait to see who you'll be in the future." As the sun set and the party continued around them, Sarah thought about the journey they'd traveled together. From that awful night in Emma's bedroom when the truth first came out, through the investigation and trial, through the countless therapy sessions and hard days, through the advocacy work and the healing, through all of it. They had survived. More than survived. They had found purpose in pain, community in crisis, strength in vulnerability. Thomas Reynolds had tried to destroy Emma. Instead, he had inadvertently created a force for change. 7 girls who refused to be defined by their victimization. 7 families who refused to let abuse remain hidden in shadows. A foundation that would help countless other survivors. Legislation that would protect future children. None of it erased what had happened. The abuse was still real. The trauma still existed. But it didn't win. It didn't get the last word. Emma got the last word. And her word was resilience, hope, healing, change. Years later, when Emma was in college studying social work, she would sometimes give talks about her experience. Not because she wanted attention or pity, but because she understood the power of speaking truth, of shattering the silence that allows abuse to flourish. "I was a victim," she would tell audiences. "But I'm not just a victim. I'm also a survivor, an advocate, a student, a friend, a daughter. What happened to me is part of my story, but it's not the whole story. And to anyone out there who's going through something similar, I want you to know something. You have power. You have a voice. You have the right to be believed and protected. What's happening to you is not your fault. It's not okay. It won't last forever. Tell someone. Keep telling until someone listens and helps. And then let yourself heal. It takes time. It takes work. It takes support. But it's possible. I'm living proof. You can survive this. You can heal from this. You can build a life that's defined by so much more than what someone else did to you. You can take the worst thing that ever happened to you and use it as fuel to create positive change in the world. That's what I'm doing. That's what we can all do. Together. And in the audience, there would always be someone who needed to hear those words. Someone who was carrying their own secret, their own shame, their own fear. Someone who needed permission to speak up, to seek help, to believe they could heal. Emma's story, painful as it was, became a light in the darkness for others. The ripples of her courage spread far beyond what she could see or measure, touching lives in ways she might never know. And Thomas Reynolds, rotting in prison, he was barely a footnote now. The story wasn't about him. It never had been. The story was about Emma, about survival, about speaking truth, about healing, about refusing to let darkness win. That was the story that mattered. That was the story that continued, evolving and growing with each passing year. It was a story without a neat ending, because healing is an ongoing process. But it was a story of hope. And hope, as Emma had learned, was the most powerful thing of all.